It's over, the illusion, the PR machine. The polished perfection that once made Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds Hollywood's most untouchable power couple obliterated, and not by gossip or speculation, not by a scandalous tabloid scoop, but by the one force they never thought would come for them, a federal judge. Because this time no charming Instagram caption, no cleverly staged red carpet pose, and no behind-the-scenes damage control could stop what's unfolding. What we're witnessing right now isn't just the unraveling of a celebrity couple's carefully curated reputation. It's the exposure of a deeper truth that for years Blake and Ryan allegedly used their wealth, influence, and connections to control narratives, silence dissent, and manipulate careers behind the scenes. Now that reign is finally collapsing in real time. It all began when Justin Baldoni, the actor, director, and producer best known for his work uplifting, meaningful storytelling, filed a bombshell lawsuit. A lawsuit alleging that Blake Lively engaged in a targeted campaign to smear him, destroy his career, and block the release of a project she allegedly viewed as a threat. At first it seemed like another Hollywood ego clash, but then the filings came in, the text messages, the timelines, the names, and suddenly this wasn't about he said, she said. This was about who did what, when, and why. The judge reviewed the evidence, and he didn't just side with Baldoni, he went further. He rebuked Blake's legal team for obstruction, exposed coordinated media manipulation efforts, and greenlit full discovery, including a deep dive into Lively's private messages, business dealings, and yes, even communications involving Ryan Reynolds. That's when it all began to fall apart. Because those messages, they allegedly show more than gossip or emotional venting. They show strategy, pressure, names of influencers to suppress, studio execs to manipulate. Even Ryan's own involvement, not just supporting Blake but actively participating in decisions designed to smear Baldoni and protect their image. And that's just the beginning. With discovery now active, legal analysts are predicting a flood of new information. A list names could be called to testify. Taylor Swift's private messages with Blake are officially under review, and Hollywood insiders once terrified to speak are lining up to reveal what they experienced at the hands of the Lively Reynolds empire. The judge has spoken, the legal shield is gone, and for the first time the truth is finally louder than the spin. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear may forever change how we see two of the biggest names in Hollywood. The reign is over, and it didn't end with a scandal, it ended in court. There was a time when Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds seemed untouchable. Not just Hollywood's favorite couple, but something closer to a carefully crafted myth, a narrative built brick by brick to impossibly attractive people, who somehow maintained the illusion of normalcy, who threw jabs on social media that seemed too perfect to be spontaneous, to rehearse to be raw. And now the curtain is finally falling. Because what we're witnessing isn't just the unraveling of a PR empire, it's the exposure of something darker and possibly more manipulative than the public ever imagined. For years, whispers swirled in the backrooms of studios, the blind items tucked deep in the tabloids, the anonymous tips ignored by mainstream media. But now a judge has finally done what no journalist dared, called out the Lively Reynolds machine, and put an end to their reign of legal intimidation, media suppression, and alleged abuse of influence. Let's break it down piece by piece, because the implications of what just happened in court aren't just shocking, they're seismic. It started, as these things often do, with a case no one thought would go anywhere. A lawsuit filed by actor-director Justin Baldoni against Blake Lively alleging defamation, interference, and emotional abuse that stemmed from an alleged campaign to destroy his reputation and halt the distribution of a film he was developing under his production banner. At first it read like another Hollywood spat, egos bruised, projects canceled, lawyers sent in to clean up the mess. But the filings told a different story. When Baldoni's team began submitting documentation, sworn declarations, and correspondence indicating that Lively had not only made unsubstantiated claims, but had also potentially involved third parties, including her husband Ryan Reynolds, in orchestrating a whisper campaign, the tide shifted. And when the judge ruled that key evidence, including private text messages between Lively and various Hollywood executives, would be admissible, the internet erupted. Because this wasn't just a case of he said, she said, it was suddenly about how power is wielded behind the scenes, who gets to control the narrative, and what happens when even the rich and famous are forced to answer to the truth. Let's talk about those messages for a moment. We're not talking about simple gossip or venting. According to Baldoni's legal team, some of the texts contain pointed instructions about ruining Baldoni's reputation, interfering with financial backers, and even potentially pushing certain creators to stay silent or get buried. If proven true, that's not just malicious, that's coordinated character assassination. And Ryan Reynolds, he's not just collateral here. He's mentioned in multiple communications allegedly weighing in on strategies coordinating with reps, and most damning of all, encouraging Lively to escalate if it doesn't go away. That quote right there, it's been burned into the minds of legal analysts and social media sleuths alike. Because what does escalate mean in a world where PR agencies, tabloid connections, and NDA-backed silence are all just tools in the toolbox? This wasn't about justice. At least not for Blake and Ryan. It was about control, and for years, they had it. Think about it. The cozy interviews, the magazine spreads, the constant hand-holding during premieres. But behind the smiles was a growing pattern of power moves, legal threats, and attempts to shut down critics when journalists tried to dig deeper into Lively's alleged behavior on past sets. Cease and desist letters. When smaller creators began speculating about why Baldoni's projects were delayed or buried, mass reporting takedowns. And as it turns out, targeted communications flagged in the legal filings. But the judge had seen enough. In a brutal, no-nonsense statement, the court finally stepped in. The legal system is not a tool for reputation management. It is a place for truth. And just like that, the spell began to break. In one fell swoop, the judge denied Blake Lively's motion to suppress the texts, issued discovery orders against several publicists tied to Reynolds, and opened the door for potential subpoenas of influencers and media outlets that had previously spoken in coordinated defense of the couple. That's right. Content creators, bloggers, even celebrity news editors, all potentially facing questioning. Because this case is no longer just about Baldoni and Lively. It's about how far too powerful celebrities were allegedly willing to go to protect their image and silence the people who threatened it. And the timing of it all couldn't be more suspicious. Just weeks before the court ruling, Ryan Reynolds had ramped up his press tour for an upcoming streaming project, dropping self-deprecating interviews, joking about parenthood, and reminding the world that he's just a funny guy who married well. Lively, meanwhile, posted throwbacks with Taylor Swift, aligning herself once again with her famous bestie and attempting to deflect from the growing chatter around the lawsuit. But even that couldn't shield them anymore, because the judge's decision didn't just validate Baldoni's claims. It cracked open a vault, one that might contain years of silence, dissent, media manipulation, and influence peddling that few in the industry have been brave enough to confront. And people are finally talking. Former collaborators, anonymous producers, even crew members who once worked with Blake on indie projects have begun reaching out to journalists and legal teams, eager to finally be heard. Stories are surfacing. One's about sudden firings, PR threats, and a revolving door of assistants who were allegedly warned not to cross certain boundaries. What's more, lawyers believe that if the texts prove what Baldoni's filings suggest, we could be looking at a broader defamation and conspiracy case that implicates more than just Lively and Reynolds. Some speculate this could trigger a major industry reckoning, not unlike the wave of revelations that emerged during the post-Weinstein era. Because while this case doesn't involve criminal charges, yet the damage to careers, reputations, and mental health is already profound. And if even half of what's alleged in those messages is true, then the reign of terror the internet has dubbed it might not be an exaggeration. It might be the tip of the iceberg. The moment Taylor Swift's name was mentioned in a legal filing connected to this case, everything changed. Because up until that point, this was already one of the most high-profile celebrity civil disputes in recent memory. But the inclusion of Taylor even tangentially sent a shockwave through the Hollywood PR machine. This wasn't just about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds anymore. It was about the interconnected power circles that have run unchecked for far too long. Here's what happened. As part of the court's order allowing discovery to move forward, Justin Baldoni's legal team submitted a list of names to be reviewed for possible correspondence with Blake Lively during the relevant period of the alleged defamation campaign. Among those names were top agents, studio executives, PR consultants, and yes, Taylor Swift. Now, no one is saying Taylor orchestrated anything. No one is accusing her of wrongdoing. But the fact that her communications with Blake during that time are being scrutinized speaks volumes. Because Taylor Swift and Blake Lively have long presented themselves as best friends, vacationing together, attending premieres, celebrating birthdays, and even collaborating on Swift's albums. They are to the public sisters in solidarity. So if Lively was venting, or worse, strategizing about Baldoni, and if any of that occurred via text, then even innocent exchanges could become evidence. And the court has now ruled that these messages are relevant. That's massive. Legal analysts say it's highly unusual and incredibly risky for a judge to allow messages from a celebrity of swift stature into discovery, unless there's already significant evidence suggesting relevance, which means that whatever. Baldoni's legal team showed the judge it worked, and now Taylor Swift could be deposed, subpoenaed, or at minimum forced to turn over her private texts with Blake during the timeline in question. And you better believe the Swifties noticed. Social media immediately exploded with divided camps. Some fans demanded Blake stop dragging Taylor into her mess. Others insisted Taylor should have distanced herself long ago, especially after seeing how many people Blake allegedly targeted behind the scenes. And a smaller but growing group began pointing out how Swift's silence on this legal firestorm is eerily calculated, because here's the thing: Taylor Swift is not the kind of person who ignores controversy. She knows how to control her narrative. So the fact that she said nothing about Blake in months, despite being seen together constantly in the past, that's not a coincidence. Insiders say the friendship has cooled dramatically, not in public but behind the scenes. When asked about the situation, one source close to Taylor told a journalist under anonymity, "Taylor's people are keeping tabs on it, but they don't want her name dragged through a legal scandal she has nothing to do with. She's distancing. That quiet distancing, it matters, because it confirms what many in the industry are whispering, that even Blake's closest allies are stepping back, and not just because of the legal exposure, but because of what's being exposed in general." This is where things get dark. Since the judge opened discovery, more than one former associate of Blake Lively has come forward. A casting assistant, a former publicist, a ghostwriter who allegedly worked on one of Lively's early brand projects, each of them telling eerily similar stories about Blake's control, her obsession with image, and the way Ryan was allegedly used as a shield when the pressure got too real. One of them told Rolling Stone off the record it wasn't just about protecting their image, it was about dominating everyone else's. They had a list of people they wanted out, and they used favors, pressure, threats, whatever worked. This echoes what Justin Baldoni's legal team has suggested all along, that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds didn't just dislike him, they sought to destroy him, and now their plan is collapsing, because Hollywood may love a glamorous power couple, but it hates scandal. And no one wants to be next in line when subpoenas start flying. Already, producers once allied with the Lively Reynolds machine have begun pulling back. Certain streaming services are reevaluating deals. PR reps are quietly cutting ties. And all because the truth is now out of Blake's control. Let's not forget, just 2 months ago, Blake was still trying to dismiss the entire case. Her team filed motion after motion to stop discovery, to suppress texts, to argue that the accusations were baseless and defamatory. But the judge didn't just deny her motions, he rebuked them in court. According to the official transcript, the judge stated the defendant's attempts to delay discovery appear inconsistent with her public persona of transparency and fairness. The court will not allow celebrity status to exempt any party from basic legal procedure. That line, it went viral in minutes, because it summed up what so many people have been feeling for years, that some celebrities, especially ones with carefully curated brands, think they're above accountability, that the combination of fame, money, and media influence can shield them forever. But not this time, not when a federal judge is finally forcing the system to treat them like anyone else. Not when discovery is now active. Not when multiple devices, phones, laptops, cloud backups are being examined. Not when private messages with Taylor Swift PR agents and producers are now part of an ongoing evidentiary review, and certainly not when Blake's own legal team is now facing possible sanctions for allegedly attempting to withhold documents after the discovery order was issued. Yes, you read that right. In the last hearing, Baldoni's lawyers accused Blake's team of slow-walking the discovery process, delaying production, submitting heavily redacted files, and failing to produce backup records despite prior agreements. The judge didn't issue a sanction yet, but he warned Blake's lawyers in open court that further obstruction could result in penalties. The message was clear: the court isn't playing games anymore, and neither is the public. Because for the first time in a long time, the internet isn't just watching a scandal. It's demanding accountability. Threads breaking down legal filings are going viral. Independent creators are analyzing timelines, filing FOIA requests, and unearthing old interviews with now suspect statements. The narrative is no longer controlled by glossy magazines and corporate press junkets, and that, more than anything, is what truly terrifies the Lively Reynolds PR empire. They built their fame on relatability, on perfect Instagram posts, on Fox feuds about birthday messages. But now that whole aesthetic is collapsing under the weight of subpoenas, timelines, and testimonies, and even their wealth can't By silence forever, not when discovery is this deep, not when texts with Taylor Swift are in play, not when producers are flipping, not when a judge has made it clear this reign of manipulation, suppression, and unchecked influence. It's over, because the court's ruling didn't just shatter Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' legal wall. It detonated a bomb across the Hollywood elite, and now the once loyal inner circle is scattering. Former allies are flipping, studios are rethinking deals, and Ryan Reynolds' sources say he's panicking. Yes, the man who made his name on sarcasm quips and picture-perfect marriage goals is reportedly considering separate legal representation from his wife. And if true, that's not just damage control, it's survival mode. Let's unpack what's happening. In the weeks since the judge denied Blake's motions and ordered discovery to proceed, including communications involving Ryan himself, the tone inside the Reynolds Lively camp has shifted drastically. Gone are the playful birthday posts. Gone are the curated red carpet appearances. Even their joint business ventures like beverage endorsements and social impact campaigns have gone quiet completely. According to an insider from one of the couple's former ad partners, no one wants to run a campaign with them until this dies down, and it's not dying down. And how could it when court documents name Reynolds as a potential participant in the alleged whisper campaign against Justin Baldoni, when messages reportedly show Ryan strategizing response timelines with PR teams suggesting specific influencers to counter narrative on social media, and even discussing deflection tactics involving unrelated celebrity drama? This is no longer about his wife's behavior. It's about his own, and as legal pressure mounts, Ryan is said to be distancing himself behind the scenes. Multiple legal consultants, including one prominent entertainment attorney in Los Angeles, have told media outlets that it would be highly unusual for a couple to share legal counsel. Under this kind of scrutiny, one attorney explained, if Ryan is facing discovery and potential liability even peripherally, he needs independent representation. Joint counsel may constitute a conflict of interest. And that's exactly what appears to be happening. Sources close to the case say Reynolds has already spoken with two high-profile attorneys, one specializing in digital defamation defense and another known for negotiating settlements on behalf of celebrities caught in scandal. That doesn't mean he's turning on Blake yet, but it does suggest he's preparing for a worst-case scenario. And judging by what's coming out of the woodwork, that scenario might already be here. Because the backlash isn't limited to courts, it's exploding across Hollywood. One director who previously worked with Lively on a shelved thriller came forward anonymously to say, "We were warned not to speak up when she shut the project down. But what she said about Baldoni sounds very familiar, almost scripted." A veteran showrunner said he had personally been approached by Ryan about blackballing someone who had gone public with allegations against Blake years ago. Even agents long known for their silence when money is involved are talking. Now, one said no one wants to deal with the fallout. The texts were real. The smear tactics were real. And now we're all pretending we didn't know, please. And the shockwaves don't stop there. 3 brand partnerships tied to Reynolds, including a tech startup, a gin company, and an upcoming streaming collaboration, have quietly delayed launches. Why? Because they don't want the heat. Because Reynolds, once a surefire face of clean comedy and charm, is now being seen as complicit. And Blake, she's reportedly furious. One PR consultant who formerly worked with her said Blake controlled everything, every interview, every look, every sentence, and now it's slipping. She's lashing out, not in public but behind the scenes. Her strategy allegedly leaning harder into victimhood, painting herself as misunderstood, framed, even betrayed, but the court isn't buying it. The judge has already noted inconsistencies in her statements and raised concerns about selective memory when responding to deposition notices. That's right, Blake Lively was ordered to sit for a deposition, and the deadline is approaching fast. If she refuses, contempt charges are on the table. If she complies, she'll be under oath, facing cross-examination about her communications, her actions, and her alleged involvement in a coordinated industry takedown. Legal experts say her deposition could be the turning point, not just for the case, but for her entire public image. And here's where things get even more dramatic. A source familiar with the Reynolds camp says he doesn't want her to sit for it. Why? Because anything she says under oath could also expose him. Remember, joint communication, shared PR, reps, collaborative strategies, all of that could legally entangle Ryan if Blake implicates him even inadvertently. And that's the nightmare scenario Reynolds is reportedly trying to avoid. So what happens now? According to multiple insiders, Ryan's team is weighing 3 options. 1. Full separation of legal strategy, different counsel, different talking points, different PR spin. 2. Private settlement with Baldoni, attempt to end the case quietly even if it means financial fallout. 3. Cut and run, step back entirely, issue a solo statement, and let Blake face the music alone. None of these options are ideal, but they all reflect the same reality: the empire is crumbling. And the public knows it. #Reynolds Reckoning has trended more than once. Commentators are digging through old interviews, pulling clips where Blake or Ryan threw veiled jabs at former collaborators. Even Taylor Swift's fans, once fully loyal, are calling for transparency about her communications with Blake. In a stunning twist, one verified fan account even tweeted, "If Taylor's smart, she'll cut Blake off now." There's no PR campaign strong enough to save this, and it's not just fans. Celebrity gossip podcasts, morning shows, and late-night hosts are beginning to address the scandal carefully but openly. What was once a niche lawsuit has become the epicenter of a broader reckoning about image control, manipulation, and the illusion of kindness from Hollywood elites. This isn't just the end of a legal charade. It's the end of an era. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds built a brand on perfection. Now, piece by piece, that brand is being torn down, not by tabloids but by truth. And the judge, he's not budging. In fact, he's just granted Baldoni's team permission to file amended complaints, including potential charges of malicious interference, reputational fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. This could mean more discovery, more subpoenas, more texts, and yes, more names. And if Ryan's name is in those amended filings, if Taylor is called to testify, if Blake fumbles her deposition, then this won't just be a scandal. It will be a collapse. If the courtroom broke their legal armor, the media has now torched whatever was left of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' public persona. Because while the court ruled on admissible evidence and attorneys mapped legal strategy, a very different war was erupting across newsrooms, gossip columns, social platforms, and podcasts. A war over who gets to own the narrative now that the mask has fallen. And it's not Blake's PR team anymore. It's open season and the coverage is brutal. Let's start with the most damning piece, the leaked reputation memo. Yes, within hours of the court ruling, a document allegedly authored by a crisis management firm tied to Lively's team made its way to two separate news outlets. The memo, titled Containment Plan Baldoni Fallout, included tactics to reframe public perception, reinforce legacy alliances, and amplify favorable distractions. In plain English, it was a playbook for manipulation. Some of the tactics included in that memo: coordinated social media campaigns, using select fan accounts, soft interviews with friendly journalists to shift the focus, seeding blind items that suggested Baldoni had ulterior motives, attempting to redirect coverage toward unrelated celebrity controversies. But here's the kicker: the memo included a section marked "Our Coordination," suggesting that Ryan Reynolds was not only aware of this strategy, but had a sign-off role in multiple phases. Now, PR firms always have crisis plans, but when one is exposed in the middle of a court case that accuses you of orchestrating reputational sabotage, that's not just embarrassing, it's incriminating. And the media noticed. Vanity Fair called it a peek into the dark heart of celebrity spin. The Hollywood Reporter ran with the headline, "Leaked PR Memo Hints at Targeted Smear Strategy by Lively Reynolds Camp." Rolling Stone didn't hold back. Blake and Ryan's media machine wasn't just polished, it was weaponized. And then came the flood. Former staffers, old collaborators, ex-publicists, one after another began sharing stories, not under NDA letters anymore, not afraid, not willing to stay silent as the power couple's myth crumbled. A former editorial assistant at a legacy fashion magazine revealed they'd pull stories after one call from Blake's rep. She knew what to threaten: access, sponsorships, exclusives. She held power, real power. A ghosted screenwriter on a Blake-led project said, "I was told to stay quiet after she rewrote the script, attached Ryan as a producer, then iced me out. I thought I was crazy. Now I see the pattern." And perhaps most shocking, a former entertainment blogger posted emails showing how their negative coverage of Lively was flagged by a concerned PR agency tied to Reynolds' production firm. The agency offered them exclusive content in exchange for removing or rewording prior posts. That blogger's response: they posted everything. And what did Blake's team do? They went silent. No clarifying statement, no denial, no threats, no lawsuits, just silence. Why? Because they know the game is up. They know any aggressive move now could trigger more subpoenas, more leaks, more damage. And meanwhile, other celebrities are watching nervously. Because this isn't just about Blake anymore, it's about the culture of manipulation that swirled around her, the whisper network that protected her, the media deals and influencer collaborations that kept her untouchable. For years, up-and-coming actors, writers, and creatives whispered the same thing: don't get on Blake's bad side. They said it half-jokingly. They said it in hushed tones on film sets, but now it's becoming clear they weren't exaggerating because Blake didn't just use her fame to shine. She allegedly used it to shut others down, and the media they enabled it until now. What's happening is unprecedented. A list journalists now openly saying they were pressured into publishing puff pieces. Industry editors hinting that Blake's team blacklisted certain talent over petty disagreements. Talk show hosts refusing to rebook her until the case is resolved. Even former allies are flipping. One popular lifestyle influencer once photographed vacationing with Blake and Ryan just posted a cryptic quote: "When you realize they only loved you when you were useful, it stings, but it's freeing." Another who had done sponsored posts with Reynolds gin brand wrote, "I've turned down all offers this quarter, morals over money." That's the domino effect. And Ryan, he's trying to pivot, sources say. He's now privately reaching out to journalists to distance himself from the memo, insisting that he had limited visibility into Blake's legal troubles and is fully cooperating with the discovery process. But the damage is already done, because this isn't just a scandal, it's a reputation collapse. And worse, more lawsuits may be coming. A rising TV actress who allegedly had a role pulled at the last minute after a call from Blake's team is reportedly exploring legal options. So is a producer whose series pitch was allegedly sabotaged by false rumors seeded during the Baldoni conflict. If these cases move forward, Blake Lively could face a wave of defamation and interference lawsuits that will dwarf the current one. Legal analysts say we are now entering dangerous territory for both Blake and Ryan. And the irony, the very strategy they used for years, tight control, coordinated press. The illusion of perfection is now what's unraveling them. Every silenced critic is speaking, every suppressed story is emerging, every carefully buried slide is being exhumed. This is the end of the Whisper Network. And it's being replaced with witness lists, depositions, and subpoenas because people aren't afraid anymore. The judge's bold rulings have emboldened others. The media's reversal has lit the match.